So hi everyone, this week we've got Heather Staff on the show. We're going to be talking about staffing, automation and stock. So before we do anything useful, I want Heather to give us a quick introduction as to what Heather's been up to, who she is. So Heather, first off, pass over to you.
Cheers, Lee. Well, thanks for having me on. I'm Heather. I am one of the two co-founders of Street Group. So we have Spectre Sales, Spectre Lettings and Street.co.uk.
Awesome. So first off, I want to talk about probably more on the Spectre side, which is the stock levels. I know obviously with what you do, being a bit of a specialist in that area, can you tell us some interesting information, easy for me to say, around what's going to happen in the future, stock levels, all of that stuff, what agents will want to know. Heather, what's the scoop?
Yeah, so got some interesting stats actually. We were chatting to our head of data a couple of days ago. He ran the data in terms of stock levels at the moment. And interestingly, the stock that's currently on the market is 16% lower than it was pre-pandemic levels. So, there is significantly less stock to go at. But with that, the number of agents has only reduced 1.8%. So I think the main thing to take from that is that, the agent numbers are practically the same. So the same number of agents competing over a significantly reduced amount of available stock or potential vendors to go after, basically. So yeah, I think the thing at the moment is that agents are having to do more to win each instruction. So yeah, I think at the moment, marketing and prospecting for agents is super important. I don't think anybody doesn't know that already. But what we're seeing quite a lot of at Spectre is a lot more people having success from sort of having a omni-channel prospecting approach, as it were. So making sure that you're covering every single base. So things like making sure that you're doing your on-market prospecting, obviously, because people are still switching, by the way. Data shows that hasn't changed. I think actually on that, sorry to go off on a tangent,
Fine.
we looked at the data there to see, have we seen a drop off, because properties are selling quicker. And what's interesting is that properties are selling faster, but the ones that aren't selling must be, I don't know, I'm reading potentially too much into it here, but more frustrated because they expected to sell very, very quickly and therefore are more likely to switch. So on-market prospecting is still super important and agents need to make sure that they're regularly doing that. But I think other basics as well, like making sure that you're keeping in contact with your past purchasers. Some of them, if you sell, I think we ran the data on this as well. I'm going to get the numbers wrong now, but if you sold something like 10 properties a month for the last 5 years, on average, 5 of those past purchasers will be coming back to the market every month now. So I know, definitely worthwhile doing. Off-market prospecting, we're seeing a huge increase of instructions through Spectre from the off-market prospecting. So figuring out who you want to target, filtering down by things like length of time on market. If you've got particular buyers, reaching out to people who are off-market and saying, look, we've got this many buyers looking for properties just like yours in this area, and you can filter by things like property type, square footage, estimated value, all that sort of stuff. So those sort of approaches to marketing, make sure you've got all your prospecting bases covered. But I would say really look at your off-market prospecting as well at the moment.
Okay. And would you say that will be something that changes in the new year, or would you say that this will be something that will continue for agents right into 2022?
I wish I knew.
Trying to put you on the spot.
Yeah, it's difficult to say. I think we're not going to obviously see the levels that we've seen over the last year. So one of the really famous things with prospecting is that you always need to be thinking 3 months in advance anyway, because it's the effort that you do now that you'll see in 3 months' time. I think it's that Fanatical Prospecting book by Jeb Blount that says that. So I think either way, agents need to be making sure that they've got those foundations. And if they are busy now, often the first thing that we see drop off the list is prospecting. So make sure that you've got the processes in place and the right tech to make sure that that's basically automated and it's not going to get forgotten if somebody goes on holiday or if you're super busy at some point.
No, I agree with the 3 months, 100%. It's, you can make maximum effort this month, but it possibly won't change that much for the month after because it will make difference, as it goes on. Totally agree with that.
We do actually have some data on that, Lee. So 75% of Spectre successes comes from the 4th letter onwards to the same person. So it is repeated consistent effort will yield the best results.
Well,
Because the wonderful thing about Spectre is you can track all this. So we present back the ROI to the agents, but also we can see, if a vendor's received one or more letters and then switches agent to the Spectre agent that's been sending letters, we can see that. So we get some incredible insight into what tends to work and what doesn't work so well. So yeah, consistent effort is definitely key.
100%, and I like the fact that you've backed that up with some stats. So stats are key. I want to ask you another question. It's totally off topic to the stock, as I said at the start. Stock automation and staffing. So next one's on automation. This one's from Graham, editorial director of Estate Agent Today, Letting Agent Today, Landlord Today. So if it looks like I'm reading this one, it is because I am, because it's not my actual question. So
Okay.
which is basically which is Street's CRM platform is highly successful at giving agents the right tech to automate a lot of activities and to communicate directly with vendors, buyers, landlords, and tenants online or via the app. But does that risk removing all the important human element of successful agency?
I think that's a brilliant question. So thanks, Graham, for asking it. Well, we were really keen on Street when we looked at building Street. We knew that there was a lot. We actually went into various different agencies and we color coded the time that they spent doing different tasks. And a massive amount of time, an average agent's time, is spent doing what we called busy work or donkey work or whatever you want to call it, where actually it's just repetitive administrative tasks that doesn't add value to their client, doesn't add value to the agent, but just needs to be done by a human being at the moment. Well, pre-Street. So there's a huge emphasis on Street to automate that sort of work, but we are firm believers that there are really key elements of what an agent does that should not be replaced by technology. And I'll give you an example actually that brings this to life a little bit. So for example, if an agent is using Street and they go out to a viewing, they use an app which gives them all the information, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the viewing, they can click finish viewing and it will prompt them for some initial lines of feedback. And they can just hit a smiley face or put in a line or whatever of how the viewing went. And then that goes automatically, sends an email to the vendor to say, viewing went ahead, got some initial feedback. It also sends an automatic email to the applicant an hour after the viewing finishes, prompting them for feedback. And again, that's all automatic, and then the applicant can fill out the feedback online, and that goes back into Street. Now, this is an area where an agent can add a load of value. So what we don't do is allow that feedback to go straight from the applicant to the vendor. The tech would allow for that, but actually an agent adds loads of value by being able to get that feedback, finesse it if needs be. You don't necessarily want someone saying, the house stank of dog or whatever, going straight back to the vendor. So that's an area where we firmly believe that shouldn't be automated, but there's
That
areas
needs a
of
little bit of policing, that does. Just a
it
little
does.
bit.
I say that, but there are online agents that do allow the applicants to feed back to vendors, which I think is crazy. Because
Yep.
actually, that's when an agent might think I'm going to have a conversation with that applicant, get more into, might get an offer, might get a number. So we have put an enormous focus on automating the bits that make the consumers' lives easier and the agents' lives easier, but do not take away, excuse me, from the value add bits that an agent does. It also frees up the agent's time to do a lot more of the value add stuff, the vendor care calls, when I was selling my house a few months ago, well, it's quite a while ago now, last year, you feel very much at the mercy of waiting for phone calls and emails a lot of the time.
You do.
And there are certain phone calls that you do really want to receive. And then there are certain phone calls that are just, a pain in the arse. Viewing requests where you've already said, look, I'm not there that entire week, just book it straight in. And then you get a missed call and then you ring them back and the person that rang you is not in the office. So, you play phone tennis and then it works out. They're actually asking if they can book a viewing. And I've already said, yeah, you can book a viewing. Stuff like that on Street just doesn't happen because all of that, we give everybody the ability to, pre-approve viewing slots, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, so I think it's a really, really important question because I think any consumer would be mad to sell their house without an estate agent because there are certain areas where an agent adds an incredible amount of value.
Yep.
But I think the truth is most agents are still operating with the lines of communication that they were 10, 15 years ago, phone calls and emails. And actually, consumer expectations are moving on. People expect to be able to access anything from your mobile at any time, see what you want to see. If you want to accept a viewing request by WhatsApp on Street, if you're a vendor, you can just reply yes. that goes back into Street, automatically fires out an email. That's the sort of automation as a vendor you appreciate, and an agent saves an enormous amount of time.
100%, because you're adding, what I like about it is the value add. The automation helps you so that you can do the value add of the weekly update to all your vendors. Here we are. Just want to give you a quick call about what's happened last week with the property, the important things that agents can do that gives them more time to do those really important things, whilst helping them to assist in the sense of having a virtual automation assistant to help you with those flows to do things. So 100%. 100%. It's not to, it's almost to enhance, not to replace.
Exactly. It's all about optimizing and enhancing the agent's day-to-day activities so they can spend more time doing the value add stuff.
I think that you've provided some absolutely brilliant insights, and thank you so much for coming on the show this week. I really, really do appreciate it. And just want to say thanks.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it. Cheers, Lee.
No problem. No problem, Heather. Thank
Cheers.
you.
See ya.